Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tatam Jayamudiriye. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan. To Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Namo, thank you. Namo Om Vishnu Pataya Krishna Vasabhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharane, Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paskitaha Desatharmi. But I have to say this, is Maharani still here? Yeah, so, but I thought at least Mahalakshmi was going to stay. So anyway, that's enough about that. So, no, she's that. So anyway, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, third chapter, third chapter, text 11, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so is this the verse that's here? Etanvam eva yajatam. Is that the right verse?
Yeah.
Okay. Etavan eva yajatam.
Etavan eva yajatam.
Iha ni shreyasodaya. Ni shreyasodaya. Iha ni shreyasodaya. Iha ni shreyasodaya. Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangata Yad Bhagavata Sangata Etavaneva yajatam Ihani shreyasodaya Bhagavati achalo bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangata Etavaneva yajatam Ihani shreyasodaya Bhagavatyachalo bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangata Etavani Vayajatam Ihani shreyasodaya Bhagavatyachalo bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangata
Etavan eva yajatam
Etavan eva yajatam
Iha Iha Nishraya Sodaya Bhagavatya Chalo Bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangataha
Bhagavata Sangataha
Etavani Vayayatam
Etayani Vajayatam
Ihani Shreya Shodayaha
Ihani Shreya Sodayaha
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Yad Bhagavata Sangataha
Yad Bhagavata Sangataha
Etavadeva Jayatam
Etavani Vayayatam
Ihani Shreya Shodaya
Ihani Shreya Sodayaha
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Bhagavata Sangata
Yad Bhagavata Sangataha. Krishna. Etavani Vayajatam Ihani Shreya Sodaya Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo Yad Bhagavata Sangataha. Do you want to do more?
Etavani Vayajatam
Etavani Vayajatam
Ihani Shreya Sodaya
Ihani Shreya Sodaya
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo
Bhagavata Sangata
Yad Bhagavata Sangataha. Anyone else here want to chant? Okay, so we'll do the word for word. Etavan. All these different kinds of worshippers.
All these different
Eva.
Eva
Certainly.
certainly
Yajatam.
Yajatam
While worshipping. Iha.
Iha
In this life.
in this life
Nishreyasa.
Nishrayasa
The highest benediction.
the highest benediction
Udaya.
Udayaha
Development. Bhagavati.
Bhagavati
Unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead
Achala.
Vachalaha
Unflinching.
unflinching
Bhava.
Bhava
Spontaneous attraction.
personal attraction
Yat.
Yet
Which? Bhagavata. The pure devotee of the Lord. Sangata. Association.
association
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. I'll read it, then we'll do a work back. All the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of the pure devotee of the Lord. So please repeat. All the different kinds of worshippers
all the different kinds of worshippers
of multi-demigods
of multi-demigods
can attain the highest perfectional benediction,
can attain the highest perfectional benediction,
which is spontaneous attraction,
which is spontaneous attraction,
unflinchingly
unflinchingly
fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
only by
Only.
the association of the pure devotee of the Lord.
of the pure devotee of the Lord.
And now we will associate with Srila Prabhupada's purport. Ki Jai. All living entities in different statuses of life within material creation, beginning from the first demigod, Brahma, down to the small ant, are conditions under the law of material nature, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. The living entity in his pure state is conscious of the fact that he is a part and parcel of the Lord. But when he is thrown into the material world, on account of his desire to lord it over material energy, he becomes conditioned by the three modes of material nature, and thus struggles for existence for the highest benefit, which is the highest benefit we just read. It's a pop quiz. The highest benefit is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the living entity in his pure state of consciousness of the fact that he is a part and parcel of the Lord, but when he is thrown into the material world on account of his desire to lord it over material energy, he becomes conditioned by the three modes of material nature, and thus struggles for existence for the highest benefit. This struggle for existence is something like following the will-o'-the-wisp under the spell of material enjoyment. All plans for material enjoyment, either by worship of different demigods, as described in the previous verses of this chapter, or by modernized advancement of scientific knowledge without the help of God or demigod, are illusory only. For despite all such plans for happiness, the conditioned living being within the compass of material creation can never solve the problems of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. The history of the universe is full of such plan makers, and many kings and emperors come and go, living a plan-making story only. This is beautiful. Living a plan-making story only. But the prime problems of life remain unsolved despite all endeavors by such plan makers. Actually, human life is meant for making a solution to the problems of life. One can never solve such problems by satisfying the different demigods, because they also die. They're also grow old. They also, well, I'm not deceased, but they're also conditioned by the three modes of material nature. By different modes, one can never solve such problems by satisfying the different demigods, by different modes of worship, or by so-called scientific advancement in knowledge without the help of God or the demigods. Apart from the gross materialists who care very little either for God or for the demigods, the Vedas recommend worship of different demigods for different benefits, and so the demigods are neither false nor imaginary. The demigods are as factual as we are, but they are much more powerful due to their being engaged in the direct service of the Lord in managing different departments of the universal government. The Bhagavad Gita affirms this, and the different planets of the demigods are mentioned there, including the one of the supreme demigod, Lord Brahma. The gross materialists do not believe in the existence of God or the demigods, nor do they believe that different planets are dominated by different demigods. They are creating a great commotion about reaching the closest celestial body, Chandraloka, or the moon. But even after much mechanical research, they have only very scanty information of this moon, and in spite of much false advertisement for selling land on the moon, the puffed up scientists or gross materialists cannot live there. And what to speak of reaching the other planets, which they are unable even to count. However, the followers of the Vedas have a different method of acquiring knowledge. They accept the statements of the Vedic literature as authority in toto, as we have already discussed in Canto 1, and therefore they have full and reasonable knowledge of God and demigods, and their different residential planets situated within the compass of the material world, and beyond the limit of the material sky. The most authentic Vedic literature, accepted by the great Indian acharyas like Sankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Nirvaka, and Chaitanya, and studied by all important personalities of the world, is the Bhagavad Gita, in which the worship of the demigods and their respective residential planets are mentioned. The Bhagavad Gita 9.25 affirms yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pitri vrata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti mad yagno api mam. The worshippers of demigods reach the respective planets of the demigods, and the worshippers of forefathers reach the planets of the forefathers, and the gross materialist remains in the different material planets. But the devotees of the Lord reach the kingdom of God. We also have information from the Bhagavad Gita that all the planets within the material world, including Brahmaloka, are but temporarily situated, and after a fixed period, they are all annihilated. Therefore, the demigods and their followers are all annihilated at the period of devastation, but one who reaches the kingdom of God gets a permanent share in eternal life. That is the verdict of Vedic literature. The worshippers of the demigods have one facility more than the unbelievers due to their being convinced of the Vedic version, by which they can get information of the benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord in the association of devotees of the Lord. Okay. There's all these little bugs everywhere. The gross materialist, however, without any faith in the Vedic version, remains eternally in darkness, driven by a false conviction on the basis of imperfect experimental knowledge, or so-called material science, which can never reach into the realm of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, unless the gross materialists or the worshippers of the temporary demigods come in contact with the transcendentalists, like the pure devotee of the Lord, their attempts are simply a waste of energy. Only by the grace of the divine personalities, the pure devotees of the Lord, can one achieve pure devotion, which is the highest perfection of human life. Only a pure devotee of the Lord can show one the right way of progressive life. Otherwise, both the materialistic way of life, without any information of God or the demigods, and the life engaged in the worship of demigods in pursuit of temporary material enjoyments are different phases of phantasmagoria. They are nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita also, but the Bhagavad Gita can be understood in the association of pure devotees only, and not by the interpretations of politicians or dry philosophical speculators. So the verse again, that purport is brilliantly written. Maybe he said certain points as a thread throughout the whole thing. It's really a wonderful example of transcendental realization and transcendental. It's a very poetic, if you really read it carefully. All the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. So there's a lot of things that could be said here. But what I wanted to do, since this was a kind of spontaneous day, I'm going to share one of the realizations I had while reading it. And then I'd like everyone else either to comment on what I just said or share something that they can take away from this, what they just heard. One thing that came out of this, and where to start, where to approach it from is it's kind of it's like you want to do the right thing by it. You want to approach it properly in all humility, and so I'm begging for the intelligence and the words from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all of you, his followers, that I may be able to speak something that makes some clarity. Or, what he said is very clear, but that we can understand it even more, with more, that understanding it deep, make it a profound moment where we actually feel a sense of connection to this philosophy and our purpose of life. And what it's saying here is that if you go about your life, and there's two classes here he's talking about. Those who have some knowledge of the Vedas, and they know about demigods, and they have material desires. Because, first of all, we're in the material universe, okay? We don't belong here. The material universe is an institution for the criminally insane, basically speaking. We're, or the rebellious souls, as the Catholics would say. But however you want to put it. Right now I'm saying the criminally insane. So, why do I say that? Because we identify with something that is not us. If I have this idea that I'm actually a reincarnation of Napoleon, that's called a Napoleonic complex, and I'm qualified for an institution. And so here, in this material world, people are thinking, I can be an enjoyer, I can dominate this material world. And some very powerful personalities like Ravana and Ranjana, they understood the Vedas very much. They were very, very, in a sense, kind of pious. They had Brahmins, gurus. They worshipped these people. And they went and they performed great penances and austerities in order to achieve a specific, like with Ranjana, he was personally trying to calculate how he could become immortal. And he thought he had figured it all out with all the angles. But there was a couple of angles he didn't quite get. So, and that is the basic attempt of everyone. We're all tiny little Hiranyakasipus and Ravanas, some more pious than others. Because though in the material world, okay, let's classify it, like in a prison, there's the people that are in solitary confinement. They're very, very, very difficult. They don't play well with others. So they have to stay by themselves, and they have to have a lot of guards on them. They don't get a lot of freedom of movement. You could say that's like a tree or things like that, lower species of life. But there's also then those people that, there's different types of prisons where you go, and the prisons are for very, very dangerous characters. That would be the lowest realm in this universe. Very, they actually like human beings. They're flesh eaters. They not only flesh eaters, but they actually are cannibals. And so down in the lower regions, now some places in the lower regions, they have very materially comfortable or opulent life to a certain extent. But, and then you have people in the middle, and that's us, where we're not enjoying too much, and we're not suffering too much. Although recently, it was brought to my attention, Srila Prabhupada said in a lecture, I think it was in 1974 in Los Angeles, that he said, happiness in the material world is the temporary cessation of suffering. For a few moments, I'm not suffering, at least as much as I are. And then I think, I'm happy. So, but that's not real happiness. Then there's people in the material world that live a very opulent life. They know how to worship demigods and do various charities and penances and sacrifices, and they can go to the higher planets. So they're like in the prisons. In the prison system, there's trustees. They have a lot of mobility, a lot of freedom. There's even certain prisons for the white-collar crime people, like former congressmen or the other types of politicians maybe, hopefully, may go, or very wealthy people. They get to go and spend time in a prison. That's almost like a country club. I know one devotee actually, I don't want to mention his name, he actually spent time in such a prison. It was part of the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, but there's a separate one off to the side. And he got to meet some very powerful people while he was in there. congressman from South Carolina who got caught taking bribes, and a few other people. And he was teaching Hatha yoga classes. And so he made a lot of good connections while he was there. And so they don't suffer the same way. So in this universe, there's different levels of suffering. But everyone in this universe, according to the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuvanam Loka, all places in this material world, from the top to the bottom, are places of misery because they must experience death, even Lord Brahma. And we're all being bombarded by the three modes of material nature. We fall in love with various modes of material nature. Sometimes it's pure ignorance, sometimes it's pure passion, pure goodness, but generally it's a mixture of passion and ignorance with a little bit of goodness, or a lot of goodness, and then throw in a little passion, maybe a little ignorance. We're tied up by these three ropes. But we fall in love with different modes. What we do is, I'm really into this. And what is that? It's something that's influenced by the modes of material nature. Like one wants to be the best athlete, or the best singer, or the best this or that. So you're influenced by various modes of material nature. So, and then there's also the Adibhotik, Adhyatmic, and Adideva, which is what? What is that? Anyone?
From the Adi Atma, mind and body, Adi Bodhik, other living entities, Adi Devaka, from the depth, like demigods, like natural disturbances.
Like too much rain, enough rain, like that. So we always have those things to deal with. So, so the people that understand about the Vedas, they study the Vedas and try to worship various demigods to become like all the different things we've heard over the last few days. You get a good wife, you get money, you get fame, you get good health, and then those people that don't buy into any of that, they just trust in their own mind and their own intelligence, and the can-do spirit. They think that they can conquer the modes of material nature, they can conquer material nature, and I mentioned this before, but I've heard on NPR about a year ago, they said that our mythological gods of the past will be able to discard them, because soon science will be able to extend our lives all the way to 150 years. We're talking about eternity. We're eternal, 150 years. But then they said there is some downsides, because the people that can't afford the technology that would give you that extended life, they'll be very envious of it. And so you have to be very careful, because they may try to hurt you. So you have to live or something may happen, even though you have this new extended life because of the help of, some robotic devices they implant or whatever, you still may be in an automobile accident, or you still may be in a plane crash, or so many different things they can't calculate. So there's still fear, there's still anxiety. So what is being described here is that only by the association of a pure devotee, there's the third option. There's the option of worshiping demigods from under the different scriptural the rituals described in the scriptures, or taking faith in science and your intelligence, or taking shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, which is very rare. Living a humble life. I recently read, and then I heard, there's a sentence in a purport that Prabhupada wrote. And it says that devotional service is voluntary. It's voluntary service to the Lord, done without resentment. That is pure devotional service. Like one may say, "Oh, Prabhu, we need you to wash the pot." And you go, "Oh, okay, I'll do it. Where's so-and-so? I don't take it." Done without resentment. Pure devotional service is really, I get the chance, I must be making advancement. I have to now do more service. That is pure devotional service. So, and that, according to this purport by Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, the founder Acharya, who we have all surrendered to, he says that if you want the highest benefit, which is to become free of old age, disease, death, and what's the other? Birth, and the threefold miseries and the three modes of material nature, is voluntary service to the Supreme Lord without resentment. So, that is my realization. This is one of the things that, while reading it, I was thinking about. I've been thinking about that sentence for a couple of days now, but it kind of works. It makes, when you listen to it. So, instead of going through these big attempts, and you can read about it in the Shastras, about Ravana and Hiranyakasipu and all these individuals who tried to achieve, control of the material world and becoming deathless, and what happened to them. Or even a great devotee like Dhruva, who performed great austerities in order to get a better kingdom, bigger than his grandfather, which is the Lord Brahma. He gets success in his practices, and then when he finally gets the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's drinking nectar through his eyes. He doesn't know what to say. He feels so full. He's a 5-year-old boy. He's just almost suffocated everyone in the universe because he became one with the Supreme. All the demigods are begging Lord Brahma, please go. And then Brahma goes to Vishnu, please go, we can't breathe. This boy in the forest, he's become so powerful. Lord Vishnu says, don't worry, I've got this, I'll take care of it. And then when Dhruva sees him, he doesn't want the kingdom. He's going to be able to get what he wanted. And he says, please, no, I don't want it. I just want forever to be your servant. I want to be in the association of your pure devotees and only hear about your glories. I want to drink that river of nectar from the mouths of the pure devotees. Not to sit in opulence, not to be the most powerful person in the universe, but to be a humble servant of the Lord without resentment. So, that's what I can contribute at this moment, and I hope what I said was pleasing to everyone and made sense to everyone. And if anyone would like to contribute something to this class, I would appreciate it. Especially Mahalakshmi. Yes, Maharani?
You said something about doing service with some of us have this resentment.
Well, sometimes that happens. Like, I feel I'm overburdened.
Yeah, if it's too much service, But some of us also have deep attachment. Instead of resentment, we are very attached.
Yeah.
Thinking like if we don't go, the world will come to an end.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's good or bad.
Well, we're not the doers. But that's a good sense of that responsibility, I would think. Were you finished with what you were saying?
Yeah, I just was like checking.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that because you feel like you don't. I'm just saying that this was something I heard. That Prabhupada's definition of pure devotion is because every one of us here is doing this voluntarily. No one's putting a gun to our heads to be here. We've chosen to be here. We've used our free will and decided to be Hare Krishnas. And we're all in on it. But what's the point of doing it halfway? I go to college and I want to become the best physicist in the world, but then I'm just kind of coast. If you want to do something, do it. Go into it. Because there's only so much time we have. And the time isn't in minutes or hours or days, it's in breaths. And you don't know when the last one's coming. It's coming down the road. Of course, we're eternal and we'll go on to the next thing. But if we decided, we've actually made a decision to cut our ties with this material society and become pure devotees, then let's put our best foot forward. Let's put ourselves, what you put into it is what you will get from it. Yes, Maharaj. And then Bhakti John. Yes.
I was just thinking that he was saying that it's pure devotional service.
Right.
And that makes such a difference because it is a process that we're going through. And so as we gradually advance, it's just like the whole idea of taking the sugar candy when a person has jaundice. It doesn't taste good at first, it's bitter, it's, just tasteful. And then slowly it becomes sweet. So devotional service sometimes, when you first are involved in it, it may not be the most easy or pleasant thing that you do, or rising early from a Lord tea, or coming to Bhagavatam class. It may not be what you want to do, but by doing it, then eventually you will come to a platform of pure devotional service. And what an auspicious platform to be on, for people to actually say that this is pure devotional service is very rare.
And Prabhupada oftentimes when asked about his disciples, he says, all my disciples are perfect, all my disciples are pure devotees. But there's no end to their purity, there's no end to their perfection. And that's not to say that every day you're going to feel that way. There are days when you're like, you have to battle with the mind. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, every morning when I wake up, I beat my mind 100 times with a stick. And then every evening, I beat it again, another 100 times with a cane, with a broom. So, it's not like, sometimes we forget. There's different, we're being affected by the modes. I mentioned this the other day in, I think, my previous class. In the previous chapter, we were talking about the shedding of the different false egos. And I basically said one day when it was my turn to go to class that I don't really understand this whole point of merging earth into this. And I didn't really, but I described whatever from my point of realization. But after saying that, different things happen, and I realized that on a regular basis, I'm having to shed another false conception of myself. I have to give that up. And I think I got it, and then I'm reminded, I heard someone say recently in another class, really nice, that one of the definitions of humility is, I live to be corrected. Most people, including myself, I don't really like when someone's telling me, but actually think about it. Who doesn't need to be corrected? Sometimes though, it depends on what the source is. You got to consider the source. But generally speaking, that is a good little thing to have in our consciousness. That yes, I need to be corrected. Yes, help me. That's why we're here in association. I know you have your hand, but Dr. John did have this. So, do you want to speak, Dr. John?
No, let us speak. I'll speak.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
He's a gentleman.
I'm just thinking about just what you just said, to be corrected. I wish my husband was here, He put something up in the Facebook yesterday, and I corrected him. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, I just wanted to know how he took it,
Yeah, well, that's a husband and wife thing, and no, but
he put some stuff up there. It's just so irrelevant, For somebody like him, he's always Krishna conscious and blah 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 blah.
What, you put it in there? You mean?
No, in the Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yeah, he would put something really not even relevant to anything,
I can just say one thing, is that I'm happy about myself, is that I don't know that world.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
I know I miss out on a lot,
No.
but I also miss out on a lot, you know. And then when if it's really necessary, someone can show me what I'm missing. But yeah, and apparently there's like there are, you know, like with every new thing that comes along technology-wise, like say video games or whatever, even Facebook now or emailing and so on. There's different new psychological diseases that goes with it. You know, new forms of addiction. Like how many hours did they say the average, like television was, you know, this was the biggest threat to our civilization at one point. And it's true. I mean, a lot of parents, my parents, in the beginning, in the early 50s, because, you know, basically television started, I mean, it was around in the 20s, but nobody except for a few wealthy people, and there was no, what are they watching? So, but when it finally kicked in, and that meant that there was, in America, basically speaking, most parts of America had ABC, CBS, NBC. Certain other big urban centers like LA and New York, we had about 7 or 9 stations. They were local New York stations. And yeah, but it was also like this and black and white. But so how many hours do you allow your children to sit in front of the TV? I mean, because we would just sit there and stare at the fuzz. You know, no, but we also we were really into playing outside. That was a big thing too. So then now they're saying that the average person is spending 2.7 hours on Facebook. You know, I mean, how many hours do you have? That's a lot at the end of the year. And is that time that you're hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And we could actually have a Facebook thing that's just, and I'm sure there is, that I'm unaware of, that just glorifies, like some of the, like a Jayapataka Maharaj, and he has a Facebook page, and it's just about his preaching activity. So that is a completely, totally, go ahead, 2.7 hours. Go ahead. Do
I'm
it.
just getting that to see what my husband is doing.
So, but you know, so there's so many things. Everything has its, you know, you can transcendentalize almost everything except for certain things. But with the technology, it's like Yukta Vairagya, you know, which Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada kind of introduced. I mean, only people could use cars is if you were going to a preaching engagement. Otherwise, you had to walk. You know, that meant, you know, you would have to walk from your house to the temple. You know, that was the way it was. Now, I read a letter that was being passed around in I guess it was the early 80s. And it was a Gaudiya letter, the management of the Gaudiya Math, and how strict it was for grahastas. I mean, there was no room for. They had some very intense ways of describing grahastas. This letter was being used, of course, by, you know, there was a movement in our movement for pushing sannyas brahmachari, overemphasizing it to a certain extent. But, yeah, I mean, being a grahasta in the Gaudiya Math was not an easy task. I wish I had a copy of it, but still, even then, I don't know if you really, you get depressed sometimes. Yes, go ahead, please. Anyway, anything else that needs to be, John, did you still have something?
I'm sure after that time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned something about the prison systems and the people in there, and like I kind of thought of their calm, and they're actually on the site too, and they're going through a lot too. What they have to come back and I don't see them as being forgotten or like the scary people, fearful. I've met a lot of people like just like I worked bed and breakfast in New York City. It's right beside us since the Hells Angels, and those guys just have an fluctuation of people coming out of it. Just being around those types of people, I saw their habits and their behaviors, and you know, people get used to people after being around them, and they respect people after a while. But I believe that, you know, everyone has to be given a chance
Yeah.
on this earth. But it's what I'm trying to say is I don't feel like nowadays we see that, we institutionalize everything. That, okay, those people over there, they're in the mental ward.
Yeah.
These people are in the prisons.
Yeah.
And we're the Hare Krishnas, and those are the Christians. You know?
Yeah.
And Jesus is Lord over Picky Hill. You know, it's like,
But there's many, like, I think Haridas Thakur, he was saying that actually this is a perfect place for Vaishnava, because you can't, it's perfect because you can chant without any other social interruptions or obligations. You know, many Vaishnavas have said that in that sense, prison life is good for spiritual life. And I was using it as an example that you rebel against the law. And so we've rebelled against Krishna. He didn't want us to come here. We wanted. So, but it's true. And also, I mean, there's devotees like Astika did preaching in the prison ministries. And there's lots of people that, you know, they, like, what's his name? Chandrasekhar Prabhu, and there are others that are regularly writing and preaching to people, and there are devotees that are who have set up little Namhata programs even within certain prisons, and so it's actually a very good place in some ways. It can be, and it's not. I'll tell you one story that was told to me by a devotee who had to go to prison for things that he did in the name of Sankirtan. And he had to spend a couple of years, or a year and a half or something. And everybody was standing in line to use the phone. And there was this one really big, huge, powerful-looking, guy. He was a scary dude. And but he was sort of like, if you were his friend, you were good. No one's going to touch you. And the guy, all of a sudden, they're all standing in line, and he says, I heard there's a Hare Krishna here. Is there a Hare Krishna here? I want to know, who is the Hare Krishna here? Darn, I'm not going to say his name. And this devotee said, he was thinking to himself, well, they're going to find out eventually, so I might as well just, I'm here in the crowd, I might as well just own up. He said, that'll be me. And he goes, come over here. And he's a big cousin. I'm a Tamal Krishna man. I'm a Goswami man. Anybody messes with this devotee, you got to look at me and talk to me. You understand? He's mine. Yes?
Well, go ahead and finish.
No, well, it was just like that, Then another devotee I know, he had that to do like 25 years, but he only ended up doing 4. And his activities were not devotionally approved. But still, he was always a devotee, and he was trying to use his proceeds to benefit temples. There's a temple in South America. He put up half the money through his illegal proceeds. But he went to jail, and then he got out. But while in there, he got really strict about his sadhana. And he still is to this day. Yes?
Prabhuji always tells a story that when he was in the county jail for distributing books, that he had a new pair of shoes on. And some guy came up to him with the end of the toothbrush was sharpened, so he had a point on it. It was like jabbing him in his belly. Felt like his shoes. And Prabhuji was like, finally got a pair of shoes, And so then this one big black guy says, leave him alone. And he says, so, what color is God? And he just said, he's black. That's right, just leave him alone.
Yeah.
So they had a little understanding, of Krishna consciousness and, this, it's Krishna within the heart, telling them to back off, but It's just amazing how
You never
people
feel like-
become attracted.
I probably have told this before, but I spent, fortunately for me, I was with about 11 or 12 other devotees. We were in the drunk tank in Atlanta. We got arrested on Friday afternoon, so we were there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, because we couldn't get any money to get us out. And actually the money had to come from my aunt, and she was wiring the money to get us out. And we're in the drunk tank. It's a big, huge, much bigger than this, and it's about, by the end, it was about 800 people. And, it's just really... So we saw a lot of nasty things happening. This one police officer was really pounding people up against the wall and stuff. And one of the devotees, Amarenja, really laid into him and started preaching to him really strongly. You're in prison too. You're just right here, just like us. Only we're going to get out permanently. You have to come back tomorrow for work. You know, like things like that. And he was really hurting this one person thrown up against the wall. And he's going, yeah, stop that buzzing, run. And he was saying it all the time. So anyway, about a year later, fast forward, and Bhagavatam and I were standing on a street corner early in the morning in the garment district of Manhattan. I had just gotten second initiation from Prabhupada, or was about to. We just talked to Prabhupada about the mayor's race. And I knew where to go in the garment district because I had my aunt again donate some money. And we were about to install Gornitai in Atlanta. So this was about 73. And we're standing there all by ourselves. And all of a sudden, this guy walks up to us, big, tall guy, and he goes, Hare Krishna. And we go, kind of looking at him, he goes, you don't remember me? Atlanta? Yeah. I was your guard. You don't remember me? We're thinking, oh God, no. Oh, he says, no, I'm telling you, you guys saved my life. I was headed down the wrong path. Right after that, I got in a lot of trouble. I'm having to face the fact of my anger problems. I really owe you guys. I've been chanting all the time, you know, and I just want to thank you. I want you to know that. And this was super soul. You know, how, you know, you never know. Just never know. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Thank you.